Appreciate everyone here. Any likes, any comments always helps the group move on further. And without further ado, we are reading today the second half of the chapter Self Discipline, which is chapter 11 of the Master Key to Riches. And if you remember yesterday, we ended with these charts, which were talking about how self-discipline is, applied with willpower, reason, emotions, imaginations, conscience, the subconscious mind, telepathy, the five senses, as well as memory. And then the ego was mentioned. And we also I was bringing up the fact that oftentimes I'll say you need to use your intuition and your reasoning mind. So those things are important with self-discipline. And I might, pause here for a moment, sometimes reread some things, sometimes say hello to people that are saying hello and entering into, the group chat, and also ask any questions in the comments, and we will answer them sometime in the future in the group. And besides that, I just wanted to wish you the best and set the intention that when there are pauses, when there are, rereads, for those to just be additional moments where you can receive epiphanies. Because ultimately what comes down to reading books is you're receiving from them the information, but you can receive from them the information that's directly the words that are given. But then also sometimes you'll, get into this flow state or high state, and you seem to just be receiving like evolutionary, just thoughts and ideas that you've had, but more evolved. So basically, you've come here with an intention, for a reason, and this helps you move you further. So without further ado, second half of the chapter titled Self-Discipline in Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. And the first subhead within it starts, how the subconscious relates to the parts of the mind. The relationship between the subconscious section of the mind and the 6 other departments of the mind, indicated on chart 2, is similar in many respects to that of the farmer and the laws of nature through which his crops are grown. The farmer has certain fixed duties to perform, such as preparing the soil, planting the seed at the right season, and keeping the weeds out, after which his work is finished. From there on out, nature takes over, germinates the seed, develops it to maturity, and yields a crop. The conscious section of the mind may be compared to the farmer in that it prepares the way by the formulation of plan and purpose under the direction of the faculty of the will. If this work is done properly, and a clear picture of that which is desired is created, the picture being the seed of the purpose desired, if this work is done properly and a clear picture of that which is desired is created, the picture being the seed of the purpose desired, the subconscious takes over the picture, draws upon the power of infinite intelligence for the intelligence needed for the translation of the picture, gets the information necessary, and presents it to the conscious section of the mind in the form of the practical plan of procedure. Unlike the laws of nature, which germinate seeds and produce a crop for the farmer within a definite, predetermined length of time, the subconscious takes over the seeds of ideas or purpose submitted to it and fixes its own time for the submission of the plan for their attainment. Power of will, expressed in terms of a burning desire, is the one medium by which the action of the subconscious may be speeded up. Thus, by taking full possession of, I find it's funny sometimes, the words they use over 100 years ago, sometimes we just don't use that anymore. Speed it up, that's sped up, right? Thus, by taking full possession of one's own mind by exercising the power of the will, one comes into possession of power of stupendous proportions. And the act of mastering the power of the will so that it may be to the attainment of any desired end is self-discipline of the highest order. Control of the will requires persistence, faith, and definiteness of purpose. In the field of sales, for example, it is a fact well known to all master salespeople that, pardon me, in the field of sales, for example, it is a fact well known to all master salespeople that the persistent salesperson heads the list in sales production. In some fields of selling, such as that of life insurance, persistence is the asset of major importance to the salesperson. And persistence in selling or any other calling is a matter of strict self-discipline. In the field of advertising, the same rule applies. The most successful advertisers carry on in the field of advertising the same rule. Pardon me, the field of advertising, the same rule applies. The most successful advertisers carry on with unyielding persistence, repeating their efforts month after month, year after year, with never-ending regularity, and professional advertising experts have convincing evidence that this is the only policy which will produce satisfactory results. The pioneers who settled America demonstrated what can be accomplished when willpower is applied with persistence. At a later period in the history of our country, also, sometimes I genuinely think that there should be a comma someplace, but there isn't. Sometimes I add an extra emphasis. I hope that's all right. It helps me receive it. I appreciate you. At a later period in history, after the pioneers had settled, George Washington and his little army of underfed, half-clothed, under-equipped soldiers proved once more that willpower applied with persistence is unbeatable. And the pioneers of American industry, such greats as Henry Ford, Thomas A. Edison, and Andrew Carnegie, gave us another demonstration of the benefits of willpower backed by persistence. These pioneers and all others of their type who have made great contributions to the American way of life had self-discipline, and they also attained it through the power of will backed with persistence. Andrew Carnegie's entire career provides an excellent example of the benefits which are available through self-discipline. He came to America when he was a very young boy and began work as a laborer. He had only a few words, none of them wealthy or influential, but he did have an enormous capacity for the expression of his willpower. By working at manual labor during the day and studying at night, he learned telegraphy and finally worked his way up to the position of private operator for the division superintendent of the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. In this position, he made such effective application of some of the principles of this philosophy, among them the principle of self-discipline, that he attracted the attention of men with money and influence who were in a position to aid him in carrying out the object of his major purpose in life. At this point in his career, he had precisely the same advantages that hundreds of other telegraph operators enjoyed, but no more. But he did have one asset which the other operators apparently did not possess: the will to win and a definite idea of what he wanted, together with the persistence to carry on until he got it. This too was the outgrowth of self-discipline. Mr. Carnegie's outstanding qualities were willpower and persistence, plus a strict self-discipline through which these traits were controlled and directed to the attainment of definite purpose. Beyond these, he had no outstanding qualities which are not possessed by someone of average intelligence. By exercising his willpower, he adopted a definite major purpose and clung to that purpose until it made him America's greatest industrial leader, not to mention the huge personal fortune he accumulated. Out of his willpower, properly self-disciplined and directed to the attainment of a definite purpose, came the great United States Steel Corporation, which revolutionized the steel industry and provided employment for a huge army of skilled and unskilled workers. Thus, we see that a successful person gets started through the application of self discipline in pursuit of a definite purpose and carries on until that purpose is achieved with the aid of that same purpose. Attaining personal power. When Andrew Carnegie said that the power of will is an irresistible force which will recognize no such reality as failure, he doubtlessly meant that it is irresistible when it is properly organized and directed to a definite end in a spirit of faith. Obviously, he intended to emphasize three important principles of this philosophy as the basis of all self acquired self discipline, such as A. Definiteness of purpose, B. Applied faith, C. Self discipline. It should be remembered, however, that the state of mind which can be developed through these three principles can best be attained, and more quickly, by the application of other principles of this philosophy among them. A. The mastermind, B. A pleasing personality, C. The habit of going the extra mile, D. Personal initiative, E. Creative vision. Combine these five principles with definiteness of purpose, applied faith, and self-discipline, and you will have an available source of of personal power of stupendous proportions. The beginner in the study of this philosophy may find it difficult to gain control over his or her power of will without approaching that control, right? It might be difficult to gain one's power over of their will without approaching that control, that self-control. Step by step through the mastery and application of these 8 principles. Mastery can be attained in one way only, and that is by constant, persistent application of the principles. They must be woven into one's daily habits and applied in all human relationships and in solution of all personal problems. The power of the will responds only to motive persistently pursued, and it becomes strong in the same way that one's arm may become strong by systematic use. Those with willpower, which has been self-acquired through self-discipline, do not give up hope or quit when the going becomes hard. Those without willpower do. A humble general stood in review before an army of tired, discouraged soldiers who had just been badly defeated during the war between the states. He, too, had a reason to be discouraged, for the war was going against him. When one of his officers suggested that the outlook seemed discouraging, General Grant lifted his weary head, closed his eyes, clenched his fists, and exclaimed, "We will fight it out along these lines if it takes all summer." And he did fight it out along the lines he had chosen. Thus, it may well be that on this firm decision of one man, backed by an indomitable will, came the final victory which preserved the union of the states. One school of thought says that right makes might. Another school of thought says that might makes right. But those who think accurately know that the power of the will makes might, whether right or wrong, and history backs up this belief. Study people of great achievement, wherever you find them, and you will find evidence that the power of the will, organized and persistently applied, is the dominating factor in their success. Also, you will find that successful people commit themselves to a stricter system of self-discipline than any which is forced upon them by circumstances beyond their control. They work when others sleep. They go the extra mile, and if need be, another, and still another, never stopping until they have contributed the utmost service of which they are capable. Follow in their footsteps for a single day, and you will be convinced that they need no taskmaster or drive them on. No taskmaster to drive them on. They move on their own personal initiative because they direct their efforts by the strictest sort of self-discipline. They may appreciate commendation, but they do not require it to inspire them to action. They listen to condemnation, but they do not fear it and they are not discouraged by it. And they sometimes fail or suffer temporary defeat, just as others do. But failure only spurs them on to greater effort. They encounter obstacles, as does everyone, but these they convert into benefits through which they carry on toward their chosen goal. They experience discouragements the same as others do, but they close the doors of their mind tightly behind unpleasant experiences and transmute their disappointments into renewed energy with which they struggle ahead to victory. When death strikes in their families, they bury their dead, but not their indomitable wills. They seek the counsel of others, extract from it that which they can use, and reject the remainder, although the whole world may criticize them on account of their judgment. They know they cannot control all their circumstances which affect their lives, but they do control their own state of mind and their mental reactions to all circumstances by keeping their minds positive at all times. They are tested by their own negative emotions, as are all people, but they keep the upper hand over these emotions by making royal servants of them. Let us keep in mind the fact that through self-discipline, one may do two important things, both of which are essential for outstanding achievement. First, one may completely control the negative emotions by transmuting them into constructive effort, using them as an inspiration to greater endeavor. Second, one may stimulate the positive emotions and direct them to the attainment of any desired end. Thus, if one controls both the positive and the negative emotions, the faculty of reason is left free to function, as is the faculty of the imagination. Control over the emotions is attained gradually by the development of habits of thought which are conducive of control. Such habits should be formed in connection with the small, unimportant circumstances of life, for it is true, a Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis once said that the brain is like the hand, it grows with use. Controlling the 6 departments of the mind. One by one, the 6 departments of the mind which are subject to self-discipline can be brought under the complete control, but the start should be made by habits which give one control over the emotions first, since it is true that most people are the victims of their controlled emotions through their lives. Most people are the servants of their emotions, not the masters, because they have never established definite, systematic habits of control over them. All who have decided to control the 6 departments of their minds through a strict system of self-discipline should adopt and follow a definite plan to keep this purpose before them. One student of this philosophy wrote a creed for this purpose, which he followed so closely that it soon enabled him to become thoroughly self-discipline conscious. It worked so successfully that it is here presented for the benefit of other students of the philosophy. The creed was signed and repeated orally twice daily, once upon arising in the morning and once upon retiring at night. This procedure gave the student the benefit of the principle of autosuggestion, through which the purpose of the creed was conveyed clearly to the subconscious section of his mind, where it was picked up and acted upon automatically. I have enclosed a copy of the creed in your orientation packets. To help you get started, I will recite it now. The creed is as follows. A creed for self-discipline. Cześć, Tomek Krzywda. Ja też jestem w Polsce, tylko czytam po angielsku książkę. I Antoni Tomczak. Też, bardzo miło. A creed for self-discipline. Willpower. Recognizing that the power of will is the supreme court over all other departments of my mind. I will exercise it daily. When I need the urge to action for any purpose, I will form habits designed to bring the power of my will into action at least once daily. Emotions. Realizing that my emotions are both positive and negative, I will form daily habits which will encourage the development of the positive emotions and aid me in converting the negative emotions into some form of useful action. Reason. Recognizing that both my positive emotions and my negative emotions may be dangerous if they are not controlled and guided to desirable ends, I will submit all my desires, aims, and purposes to my faculty of reason, and I will be guided by it in giving expression to these. Imagination. Recognizing the need for sound plans and ideas for the attainment of my desires. I will develop my imagination by calling upon it daily for help in the formation of my plans. Conscience. Recognizing that my emotions often err in their overenthusiasm, and my faculty of reason often is without the warmth of feeling that is necessary to enable me to combine justice with mercy in my judgments, I will encourage my conscience to guide me as to what is right and what is wrong. But I will never set aside the verdicts it renders, no matter what may be the cost of carrying them out. Memory. Recognizing the value of an alert memory, I will encourage mine to become alert by taking care to impress it clearly with all thoughts I wish to recall, and by associating those thoughts with related subjects which I may call to mind frequently. Subconscious mind. Recognizing the influence of my subconscious mind over my power of will, I shall take care to submit to it a clear and definite picture of my major purpose in life, and all minor purposes leading to my major purpose, and I shall keep this picture constantly before my subconscious mind by repeating it daily. Discipline over the mind is gained little by little, by the formation of habits which one may control. Habits begin in the mind. Therefore, a daily repetition of this creed will make one habit conscious in connection with the particular kind of habits which are needed to develop and control the control the 6 departments of the mind. Habits begin in the mind. Therefore, a daily repetition of this creed will make one habit conscious in connection with the particular kind of habits which are needed to develop and control the 6 departments of the mind. The mere act of repeating the names of these departments has an important effect. It makes one conscious that these departments exist, that they are important, that they can be controlled by the formation of thought habits, that the nature of these habits determines one's success or failure in the matter of self-discipline. It is a great day in any person's life when he or she recognizes the fact that success or failure throughout life is largely a matter of control over emotions. Before we can recognize this truth, we must recognize the existence and the nature of our emotions and the power which is available to those who control them, a form of recognition many people never indulge in during their entire lifetime. Negative emotions, the ultimate enemy. It is a well-known fact that an enemy which has been recognized is an enemy that is half defeated. And this applies to enemies operating within one's own mind as well as to those operating outside it. And especially does it apply to the enemies of negative emotions. Once these enemies have been recognized, one begins almost unconsciously to set up habits through self-discipline with which to counteract them. This same reasoning applies also to the benefits of positive emotions, for it is true that a benefit recognized is a benefit easily utilized. The positive emotions are beneficial, for they are a part of the driving force of the mind, but they are helpful only when they are organized and directed to the attainment of definite constructive ends. If they are not so controlled, they may be as dangerous as any of the negative emotions. The medium of control is self-discipline, systematically and voluntarily applied through the habits of thought. Take the emotions of faith, for example. This emotion, the most powerful of all the emotions, may be helpful only when it is expressed through constructive, organized action based on definiteness of purpose. Faith without action is useless because it may resolve itself into mere daydreaming, wishing, and faint hopefulness. Self-discipline is the medium through which one may stimulate the emotion of faith through definiteness of purpose persistently applied. The discipline should begin by establishing habits which stimulate the use of the power of the will, for it is the ego, the seat of the power of the will, in which one's desires originate. Thus, the emotions of desire and faith are definitely related. Wherever a burning desire exists, there exists also the capacity for faith, which corresponds precisely with the with the intensity of the desire. The two are associated always. Stimulate one, and you stimulate the other. Control and direct one through organized habits, and you control and direct the other. This is self-discipline of the highest order. The self-discipline of one of England's greatest prime ministers. Benjamin Disraeli, known to all the history books as one of the greatest prime ministers England has ever known, summarized his great achievements in one sentence. The secret of success is constancy of purpose. That makes complete sense. Think about it. The secret of success is constancy of purpose. As long as you know what your purpose is and you keep acting towards it just consistently, then you're good. Vlogs with Hania and Filip. What are you reading? Przepraszam, ale w tytule pisze Master Key to Riches. Nie wiem, czemu ludzie nie czytają tytuły. The title of this live has the title of the book. But anyway, książka is Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. No i widzę, że macie vlogi. To wiecie co? Dam wam subskrypcję, jak łatwo was znaleźć przez Hania and Filip. Vlogs with Hania and Filip. Bo czasami ludzie mają imię, a nie można znaleźć. Jak dasz mi też, no to super. Suba albo coś. Proszę bardzo. Dajcie suba i będziemy komunikowali. Ale słuchajcie, to jest bardzo dobra książka. Napoleon Hill bardzo fajne informacje daje. No i jesteśmy akurat w ostatnich stronach tej książki i będę czytał następną książkę jego w tym następnym tygodniu, albo będę czytał Man's Search for Meaning, albo będę czytał książkę o sprzedawaniu by Sabri Subi. On jest entrepreneur od Australii. Bardzo fajne książki czytam. Tylko czytam dobre książki na wzrastaniec, nie? Dzięki bardzo. I zrób jakiś komentarz na jakichś moich wideo, bo wtedy będę mógł na pewno znaleźć was, bo czasami widzę zdjęcie, widzę imię, ale szukam imię i YouTube po prostu nie chce mi znaleźć. Proszę bardzo. And extra these during the video helps as well. So appreciate all of y'all. Okay, so we're going to read that one again because I like what they're talking about with Benjamin Disraeli, right? No, to zawsze też pomaga. Ale tylko jak lubicie to, co ja czytam. So, Benjamin Disraeli, known to all the history books as one of the greatest prime ministers England has ever known, summarized his great achievements in one sentence. The secret of success is constancy of purpose. He began his career as an author, but was not highly successful in that field. None of his dozen or so books made a great impression on the public. Wow, last 3 pages. None of his dozens or so books made a great impression on the public. Then he entered politics, with his mind set on becoming the prime minister of what was then the far-flung British Empire. He became a member of parliament from Maidstone, but his first speech to parliament was widely recognized as a failure. Aha, my też mieszkamy w Anglii, tylko teraz jestem w Polsce. Ej, dzięki za hearts. Ale miałam powiedzieć, czy daliście lajka też, bo super by pomogło. Bo tylko widzę te dwa, co były już pół godziny. Ale dziękuję za serce i na pewno oglądnę wasze wideo. He became a member of parliament from Maidstone, but his first speech to parliament was widely recognized as a failure. No i dzięki, że w ogóle coś mówicie, bo czasami ludzie tutaj tam ledwo coś komentują i jak mogę mieć rozmowę z kimś. No, widzę. Dzięki. Wow. Even more. Appreciate y'all. Chociaż czytamy po polsku książkę. Ciekawe, ile angielsko mówiących ludzi słuchałem teraz. So he became a member of parliament from Maidstone, but his first speech to parliament was widely recognized as a failure. Fighting on, he became the leader of the House of Commons and later the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Hey, Alan. He then realized his definite major purpose by becoming Prime Minister. Here he met with terrific opposition, enough to make him resign. But he staged a comeback and was elected prime minister a second time, after which he became a great builder of empires. His greatest achievement was the building of the Suez Canal. None of this would have happened if Disraeli's career had not been built on self-discipline. Disraeli succeeded in pushing himself past the greatest of all the danger points of the majority of people. They give up and quit when the going becomes tough. And often they quit when one more step would have carried them triumphantly to victory. Willpower is needed most when the oppositions of life are the greatest, and self-discipline will provide it for every such emergency, whether it be great or small. Former American President Theodore Roosevelt was another example of what can happen when a leader is motivated by the will to win despite great handicaps. During his early youth, he was seriously handicapped by chronic asthma and weak eyes. His friends despaired of his ever regaining his health, but he did not share their views, thanks to his recognition of the power of self-discipline. He went west, joined a group of hard-hitting outdoor workers, and placed himself under a definite system of self-discipline, through which he built a strong body and a resolute mind. Some doctors said he could not do it, but he refused to accept their verdict. In his battle to regain his health, he acquired such perfect discipline over himself that he went back east, entered politics, and kept on driving until his will to win made him president of the United States. Those who knew him best have said that his outstanding quality was a will which refused to accept defeat as anything more than an urge to greater effort. Beyond this, his ability, his education, his experience were in no way superior to similar qualities possessed by those all around him, of whom the public heard little or nothing. While he was president, some army officials complained of an order he gave them to keep physically fit. To show that he knew what he was talking about, he rode horseback 100 miles over rough Virginia roads, with the army officials trailing after him, trying hard to keep pace. Behind all this physical action was an active mind which was determined not to be handicapped by physical weakness, and that mental activity reflected itself throughout his administration in the White House. When the mind says go forward, the physical body responds to its command, thus proving the truth of Andrew Carnegie's statement that our only limitations are those which we set up in our own minds. A French expedition had tried to build the Panama Canal, but failed. Theodore Roosevelt said, "The canal shall be built," and he went to work then and there to express his faith in terms of action. The canal was built. Personal power is wrapped up in the will to win, but it can be released for action only by self-discipline and by no other means. Perseverance pays off. Robert Louis Stevenson was a delicate youth from the day of his birth. His health prevented him from doing any steady work at his studies until he was past 17. At 23, his health became so bad that his physicians sent him to the South. There he met the woman of his choice and fell in love. His love for her was so great that it gave him a new lease on life, a new motive for action, and he began to write, although his physical body was scarcely strong enough to carry him around. He kept on writing until he had greatly enriched the world by his writings, now universally accepted as masterpieces. The same motive, love, has given the wings of thought to many others who, like Robert Louis Stevenson, has made this a richer and a better world. Without the motive of love, Stevenson doubtlessly would have died without having made his contributions to mankind. He transmuted his feeling for the woman he loved into literary works through habits of self-discipline, which placed the 6 departments of his mind under his control. In a similar manner, Charles Dickens converted a love tragedy into literary works which have enriched the world. Instead of going down under the blow of his disappointment in his first love affair, he drowned his sorrow through the intensity of his action in writing. In that manner, he closed the door behind an experience which many others might have used as a door of escape from his duty, an alibi of his failure. Through self-discipline, he converted his greatest sorrow into his greatest asset, for it revealed to him the presence of that other self, wherein lay the power of genius which he reflected in his literary works. There is one unbeatable rule for the mastery of sorrows and disappointments, and that is transmutation of those emotional frustrations through definitely planned work. It is a rule with no equal, and the secret of its power is self-discipline. Freedom of body and mind, independence, and economic security are the results of personal initiative expressed through self-discipline. By no other means may these universal desires be assured. We near the end of our journey. Our journey together is about ended. You must travel the remainder of the distance alone. If you have followed the instructions I have given you in the right kind of mental attitude, you are now in possession of the great master key which will unlock the gate to success. Now I shall reveal to you a great truth of the utmost importance. The master key to riches consists entirely in the greatest power known to man, the power of thought. You may take full possession of the master key by taking possession of your own mind through the strictest of self-discipline. Through self-discipline, you may think yourself into or out of any circumstance of life. Self-discipline will help you to control your mental attitude. Your mental attitude may help you to master every circumstance of your life and to convert every adversity, every defeat, every failure into an asset of equivalent scope. That is why a positive mental attitude heads the entire list of the 12 riches of life. Therefore, it should be obvious to you that the great master key to riches is nothing more nor less than the self-discipline necessary to help you take full and complete possession of your own mind. Start right where you stand and become the master of yourself. Start now. Be done forever with that old self which has kept you in misery and want. Recognize and embrace that other self, which can give you everything your heart craves. Remember, it is profoundly significant that the only thing over which you have complete control is your own mental attitude. I appreciate you for listening. Put any comments down below, especially ones that include questions to these chapters that we've read. That is the quickest I have ever read a book, I think it's because I've read it once before, and it's not that thick of a title, or I've read parts of it before. And my other book, which is a favorite, and I probably will reread on this sometime, or highly suggest you to read, which was a quick read. I was like, man, I'm going to read this weekend, was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. And I highly appreciate you to go and find that book either online or at the bookstore. And that is definitely one you can read in less than a week, maybe even a weekend. That's what I did. But if you have any questions, comment right now. I'd love to connect with you. There's several people I already said I will be connecting with, especially if you would like to do a podcast recording, then I am all for that as well. I appreciate you. Looking forward to connecting with those that would like to do a podcast together. We'll just do it either in person or through streaming, Zoom or otherwise. And I hope you have the most incredible day. Appreciate all the likes. Appreciate all the comments and questions about the book that we will get to, which of the ones that we haven't gotten to. And then, of course, if you want to subscribe, that'll always help you with the future readings that we do live and in our book club, and it'll help the book club grow. So I appreciate you so much. That was Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill, as suggested to be done by Andrew Carnegie. Incredible story, and I am excited to see y'all in the future. So subscribe if you'd like to, do Think and Grow Rich in the next couple weeks, or Sabri Subi's, Sell Like Crazy, I believe is the title, and Man's Search for Meaning, which is coming up as well. So those are the next 3 titles. I appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome day, and I am looking forward to connecting with you online, and of course, just, as we may meet in the future. Peace.